Welcome to the first official episode of the Six Figure Brand Podcast. I'm super excited to be embarking on this journey, and thank you for being here with me. So I thought that the obvious place to start would be giving you a little deep dive into my story in business and how I got here and what my crazy journey full of up and downs has looked like. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of two, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. Okay, so to give you a little current day snapshot, I run Spect & Co. Creative Studio. It's a branding and web design agency where we work primarily with online service-based businesses. Hopefully that's you. And we help them market their business, build their confidence, show up more authentically, all the things through strategic branding and website design. So we're really super focused on the strategy behind all the pretty stuff. In addition to that, I also have a membership called the Six Figure Brand Society, which you will be hearing more about as this podcast goes on. It's kind of a blend of a DIY membership and design retainer sort of hybrid, where we support business owners through defining their brand strategy, defining their visuals, and then building upon their brand to help them grow to six figures. In my personal life, I am also a mom of two under two for about another month or so. My daughter will turn 2 next month, and then my son is almost 3 months old as of February 2025 when I'm recording this. I'm a military spouse. My husband has been in the Air Force for about 3 years now. Currently, we live in Idaho and we are headed somewhere new this summer. So more details to come on that. Okay, so how did I get here? So let's rewind all the way back to, holy cow, 2010. In my junior year in high school, I moved schools mid-year because my dad had gotten remarried, and so we blended families and all that good stuff. So I got dropped into a digital art class at my new high school. And basically I didn't really know what I was getting into. And it turned out that I was pretty good at it. So my first kind of realization that, oh, maybe I could make something out of this was there was like a contest for designing a flyer for our school food drive. And it was like a class assignment that we had to submit something. So I did, and I won, and kind of blew my mind a little bit. And so that kind of got the wheels turning of like, oh, maybe I could do this for money when I grow up. So I ended up going to college for graphic design and marketing. I got dual bachelor's degrees. One is in visual communication, and then the other is in public relations and marketing. And pretty quickly, I decided that I was going to get a job in a marketing company or an in-house marketing department. And then maybe like way down the road, like I'm thinking, 20 plus years down the road after my kids are out of the house, maybe then I would start freelancing. So I graduated college in 2010. My boyfriend at the time, husband now, was going to school in Idaho. So I moved there to join him. And my thought was kind of that it would be much easier to get a job in the Boise area versus trying to compete in Seattle and like commuting into the city and all that stuff that I just wasn't really interested in. So I got hired. I think actually I got the job offer right before I graduated college at a local university, if you know Boise State, the Blue Turf, go Broncos. And I worked full-time there for, I want to say like 3 or 4 months as like my first big girl job. So that was awesome. The kind of sucky part was that it was only a temp job. So I worked at Costco all through college. That's where I met my husband. There will be episodes forthcoming about all the things I learned at my Costco job. So since Boise State was a temp job, I just didn't feel comfortable quitting Costco because I'm very risk averse and I like to have a backup plan. And I didn't want to have that temp job end and be like, oh crap, what do I do now? So I was working full time at Boise State, like 8 to 5 or 8 to 4:30 or something. And then in the evenings, I would go work at Costco from like 6 to 10 p.m. So that was a grind for sure. But it didn't last super long. Within like 3 or 4 months, I think, I ended up getting hired at a marketing agency. I worked there for about 11 months and I really did get to work on like some really cool projects. They are a marketing agency that works with grocery stores. So I was doing in-store signage. I got to design a delivery truck that I then like later saw driving around town delivering groceries. So that was a super cool experience. It was a big, big, big company that we were working for. So little baby graphic designer Morgan thought that was pretty awesome. And I also got burned out extremely, extremely quickly. So, and I'll get into this in more of a deep dive on my burnout story. But I worked there for a total of 11 months. And within that 11 months, I clocked over 12 months worth of hours. So I pretty quickly was like, okay, this is not what I'm want to spend the rest of my life doing. Like, this is sucking the life out of me. I've at this point been out of college for 18 months and I already am questioning whether or not this career field is right for me. So I started applying at any graphic design-ish job kind of near where I lived that I could. Took a few months and then eventually got hired at an in-house web design position at a local e-commerce company. So that was really fun. I learned a lot more about web design. I got to help out with some photo shoot stuff, which was super new to me. And the work-life balance was much, much, much better. So in total, I worked there about 2 years. And a few months into it, I kind of was like, well, I have a lot of free time. Maybe I'll start freelancing on the side just to earn a couple extra bucks. So I made a profile on Upwork, started applying to some graphic and web design postings, and pretty quickly got my first freelance gig to design a website. I think I charged like $300. It was on Squarespace. I had never used Squarespace before. I had no idea what I was doing. But it worked out. The client was happy. I learned a lot. I got paid pennies compared to how I'm charging for projects now. But it was kind of the first like spark of, oh, maybe I could make this into a thing. So I just kind of kept doing what I was doing, working my corporate job 9 to 5, doing some freelance work like evenings, weekends on the side, just whatever I could pick up. Again, still pretty much exclusively getting business through Upwork. By the end of the first year, I was doing my taxes and literally was like, holy crap, I made $12,000 in my free time. Maybe I should turn this into a business. And then throughout all of that, husband now, boyfriend then, was finishing up school, studying for his like professional licenses, that type of stuff. So he had some money coming in, but I was kind of like the breadwinner for our household. So I was really just hustling to scrape together as many pennies as I could and make sure that we were not living off ramen, but like long-term future goals were not really a priority for me until the end of that first year when I was like, okay, I need to figure out if this is going to be a thing or not. So I got on Facebook. I was in a bunch of like graphic designer Facebook groups, posted, hey, I've been freelancing for like a year. I think maybe there's something here. I need help marketing my business. So spoiler alert, I did not need help marketing my business. I needed help turning my freelancing gig into a business. So a gal named Kelsey commented on there, who is now my business coach. Shout out Kelsey, which is super funny. That was 2016 and now it's 2025 and I'm working with her still. She was running her own branding and web design agency at the time. And she connected me with a woman named Erin, who I ended up then hiring as a business coach. And I worked with her for 4 or 5 years. So I spent about a year from when I hired her working together on redefining my packages, pricing, making sure I was actually profitable, nailing down concrete processes. So we're not just flying by the seat of my pants, making it up as I go, honing my sales skills. That was a big one. I wanted to cry every time I got on a sales call to begin with. And like, today, it's no big deal. And then I started kind of like niching down into branding and websites specifically. So no more just taking on any design project that I could get. I really wanted to focus on logo design, websites, etc. So that took maybe about a year or so. And then I got to the point where something had to give. I couldn't grow my business anymore with the amount of time that I had on the side from my full-time job. And I kind of was like, okay, I have to make a decision. I'm burning the candle at both ends and this is not sustainable. So that brings us to like summer-ish 2018. My husband and I were engaged at the time and we were planning on getting married at the end of 2018. So I decided that I was going to leave my 9 to 5, go on my honeymoon, celebrate the holidays, and then jump full-time into business in 2019. So that's pretty much exactly what I did. I didn't have enough like vacation time built up to take the length of honeymoon that I wanted. So I was like, well, this is just it then. Here's my 2 weeks. And it was real scary. I'm going to do another episode on the story of leaving my 9 to 5. But yeah, there was a lot of like, oh, are you sure? My direct boss at the time was super supportive. So that was awesome. But it was an emotional roller coaster for sure. So get married, honeymoon in Europe, life's amazing, celebrate the holidays with my family. We're newly married. everything's wonderful. And then we start 2019 and I'm like gung-ho, ready to jump into my business. And things were super slow for the first, especially January, but the first like quarter of 2019. I think I only made like maybe $1,500 that month, which that was less than half of what I had been making the previous months. And I definitely panicked a little bit and was like, no, did I make a big mistake? So with all of that free time, I created a DIY your logo course, which turned out to be a big flop. More to come on that later, but courses and like passive income are not as easy as people make it out to be. And then I also decided to rebrand my business. So I previously had been operating as Morgan Stapp Design, which was my maiden name. And I just kind of was like, yeah, that's not my name anymore. That doesn't really fit. So I took that time to rebrand into Stand Co Creative Studio, which is what we are now. Just kind of kept plugging away, networking, marketing. I'm still working with my business coach at this point. And finally, by summer, I had reached my first 10K month, which was mind-blowing to me. I also ran a group coaching program for new designers. So I was helping them set up their businesses, get processes, systems, collecting feedback from clients, that kind of stuff. And I really started to feel like I had made it. I was like, okay, this is what I've been working towards. I'm a legit big girl business owner now. And then I pretty quickly burnt out. I started just having crazy anxiety whenever it was time to get to work. And I was feeling like I was not showing up the way I wanted to show up. So I made my first hire. I hired a VA, my friend Sadie, and then pretty shortly she grew her business into a VA agency. I'm still working with them today. So kind of got some things off my plate. They were doing all of my admin work for me, so I really could just focus on the design, and that was a huge, huge weight off my shoulders. And then by the end of 2019, I was starting to feel a little more balanced and like I was a professional business owner and not just making it up as I go and trying to keep my head above water. And at that point, I was doing a pretty good mix of retainer design work. So somebody buys 5 hours a month and I do whatever they need. And then also branding and website design. Is your brand and website feeling stale, outdated, and disjointed? If you're feeling a little called out, we should chat. Spect & Co is here to help you show up with more confidence and book more clients through personalized and strategic branding and website design. Anyone could design you a pretty logo, but our strategy-backed system has helped our clients triple their audience size, double their revenue year over year, and increase their rates by over 30%. If that sounds too good to be true, I promise it's not. Use the link in the show notes to book a free discovery call so we can chat about what strategic branding and web design could mean for your business. Projects. So then we're in 2020, on January, February, we're pretty status quo. I was just plugging along. And then we all know what happened in March 2020. So COVID hit, business slowed down a lot, which is kind of odd for an online business, but I had quite a few clients at the time who ran brick and mortar businesses. One of my big clients, I was doing some white label work for another design agency who worked with fitness studios. So all of her clients had to close their doors, which meant she had to let me go, and it's kind of just a ripple effect. So business slowed down a lot. I didn't panic, but I was like, okay, I need to figure out something to do differently to drum up the business again. So I took that time to go through my own brand strategy process, and I really dug deep into who my ideal clients are, what I do for them, where they're at in business when they work with me. And that was my first real foray into brand strategy, where I really got to see what a difference it makes whenever you take the time to dig into the strategy piece before just making a bunch of pretty stuff. So that was a good experience. I spent like 3 or 4 days just holed up in my office reviewing client feedback forms and figuring out, okay, what are they saying when they hire me and how do I work that into my brand and my marketing? And it really made a huge, huge difference. So things kind of started to turn around then, started picking up some more work. And by summer, things were kind of back to a little more comfortable with space, and I was able to finish out 2020 pretty strong. End of 2021, pretty uneventful, I feel like. Whenever I was like writing my notes for this episode, I was like, I don't really remember anything that happened in 2021. I was just kind of trucking along with business and sort of shifting my focus to, okay, I don't really want to grow my business too much more right now. I just want to make it more efficient and like improve work-life balance and make things flow a little more. My husband also at that point decided that he wanted to start applying to go back to the Air Force. I say back because he had been in previously before we were together, got out, went to school, and then was like, okay, maybe this is a smart move for our family. So we found out in November that he officially was going to be able to go back. So that was exciting and nerve-wracking because in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, my life's about to get turned upside down. And at the same time, we had started trying to start a family. So I was also thinking about like, how am I going to baby-proof my business and planning for an eventual maternity leave and all that stuff. At that time, also, we were renting an office space because I am running my business, which I'm still running, and my husband had his own business at the time too. But once we knew that he was going to the military, then we had to end that lease, shut down the office, and then I moved into a home office. So 2022 I can't remember if it was March or April, in the spring, my husband left for his military training. He was gone in total for like 8 weeks. I got to like go out and visit him a couple times. And then I found out in July or August, that I was pregnant. So it was just like a whole lot of life changes all at once. And my business took a little bit of a backseat. Like I was not focused on growing my business. I was focused on keeping my business afloat and figuring out my life. As I survived the first trimester of pregnancy, we moved to Colorado. It was my first experience living on base as a military spouse. So that was an adjustment for sure. And then really just focused on prepping for maternity leave. So that entailed hiring my first contract graphic designer, which was crazy. I did not feel like I was like a legit enough business owner to be hiring employees. So that was cool. And then I also hired a new business coach to help me prep and plan specifically for maternity leave and kind of shift from being like Morgan the designer to Morgan the agency owner. And I'm still working with her today. So that's been great. My daughter was born in March of 2023. So I was on leave from March until June. And whenever I came back, my business slowed way, way down. So in July of 2023, I think my total like gross income was like $1,200, which is not enough at this point in business with like my expenses and things that we're paying for in our life and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to do an episode on this, but in hindsight, I think what the problem was I put a lot of effort into like making sure I had social content scheduled for the whole time I was on leave. But now I know that social content isn't where my clients come from. Networking and referrals is where my clients come from. So in hindsight, I should have put more effort into that and less effort into keeping my social media streak up because that was kind of silly. So I, at that point, was a little on the fence of if I was going to keep the graphic designer who I had hired to fill in for my maternity leave, if I was going to keep her on my team, take back over the retainer work myself. And then whenever I had that, like, oh crap, I'm not making enough money moment, my instinct was obviously like, I have to let her go. But after a little come to Jesus moment with myself and my business coach and my husband and all the people whose opinion I value in my life, I decided that I wanted to keep her on because that was the right time for me to really focus on taking on more of a CEO role and getting out of doing the doing in my business. At that time, also part of the dip in business was that several of my retainer clients ended up not renewing their contracts for various reasons, most of them being financial. A lot of them were like, my business is really slowed down and I don't have the money to continue to pay you. And they also felt like they were in kind of a tough spot because they were like, well, I don't have the budget to keep you on my team, but I also don't know how to do all of this design stuff myself. So I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to have to figure it out. And of course, without fail, within like 2 months, more than half of them ended up reaching out to me and being like, hey, I need this one little thing. Do you think you could just do it and bill me hourly? Which I don't like to do. I have a lot of feelings about hourly billing and it's not my fave, but obviously these were longtime clients and I really wanted to help them out. So I was like, okay, there's got to be some sort of a happy medium. And that's where the idea for the Six Figure Brand Society was born. So I had plenty of free time because I'm not doing a lot of client work at this time. So I poured all of my time into creating and launching the Six Figure Brand Society. So that launched in September of 2023. And I think we had like 10 members when we launched, which was a huge win to me. And yeah, just kept going with that, picked up a couple more projects throughout the end of the year and was able to finish out pretty strong. And then that brings us to 2024. So last year. Q1 is always slower in my business, so that was to be expected. We also found out that we were going to be PCSing. So if you're not familiar with military speak, that it just means moving. It's permanent change of stationing found out we were going to be moving that following summer and that we were coming back to Idaho, which was home for us. So that was exciting for me. I love the adventure and the travel and like finding new places in the military, but I was happy to come home for a little bit for sure. And then I also found out a couple days before my daughter's birthday that I was pregnant again, which was a big surprise. It took us a little while to get pregnant with my daughter, so I didn't really foresee that happening so quickly again. But knowing that we're coming back to Idaho, I'm pregnant again, like life's going well, it was a happy surprise for sure. So we officially moved in May. We moved back into our house. We had been renting it out when we left, kicked out our renters, moved back in. And I just had this feeling of like peace of being home. And it seriously was like flipping a switch. My business just exploded. Even while solo parenting my daughter and pregnant and all these things, I just had clients like coming out my ears, which was amazing. So really spent just the rest of the year getting settled at home, enjoying being near my family again, getting ready for baby number 2, and kind of feeling like I was able to kick back a little bit and enjoy the fruits of all the labor I had been putting in for the last several years. So that was a really cool, like, I've made it moment. So my son was born in November of 2024. So about 3 months ago now, I took maternity leave from November until middle of January. And then that's when my husband started his parental leave. And I kind of was like, okay, I have time to start this podcast that's been in my head for years now. So that brings us pretty much to today. So yeah, that was long and hopefully not too meandery, but I really love hearing people's stories of how they got to where they are in business and ups and downs they've had and kind of the behind the scenes stuff. So I hope you enjoyed. Looking forward, we have lots of exciting changes both in my life and in my business coming up. We're obviously still getting used to being a family of 4. We have a big move coming up, more to come on that. And I'm really focused on continuing to grow into an agency, adding some more services for our clients and growing the 6-Figure Brand Society membership and really entering kind of my next level CEO era, which looks like, focusing more on my own health and professional development and being the mom and the CEO and the spouse that I want to be, and just making sure that I'm putting my time and effort where it needs to be and kind of tuning out some of the distractions. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and I would invite you to follow along for the ride. Thanks for tuning in to the 6-Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.